You smile at someone you don't trust every single day, not because you're a liar, but because you understand something deeper than most people will ever admit. Survival sometimes means performing a version of yourself that isn't quite real. And the terrifying part? Most people never even notice you doing it. This is the world Machiavelli mapped out 500 years ago. Not the world of kings and battles we imagine, but the psychological game underneath everything. The dance of power that happens in boardrooms, living rooms, and inside our own minds. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Machiavelli wrote something radical for his time. People are not good or bad. They're strategic. They wear masks that shift depending on who's watching. Think about yourself right now. Who you are with your boss is not who you are with your best friend. The version of you that your parents see is different from the version a stranger sees. You're not being fake. You're being adaptive. And adaptation is survival. Machiavelli understood that most people judge power as good or evil based on the outcomes they like. But he saw deeper. He saw that the person who wins is rarely the most moral one. They're the one who understands the game better than everyone else. Here's what he realized. People don't want honesty. They want usefulness. They don't respect weakness dressed in truth. They respect strength dressed in whatever costume works. A manager doesn't want you to tell them your real feelings about a project. They want you to tell them something that makes them feel like you're on their team. The truth might be uncomfortable. Usefulness is comfortable. Usefulness gets you promoted. There's a psychological principle operating underneath every interaction you have. It's called reciprocity. When someone does something for you, something in your brain whispers that you owe them. Machiavelli saw this centuries before psychology had a name for it. He watched rulers give gifts they didn't care about, perform kindnesses they didn't feel, all because they understood something crucial. People don't remember how you made them feel as much as they remember how they owed you. A coworker brings you coffee one morning. Small gesture. But now, when they ask for help with their project, your brain makes it harder to say no. You're not consciously thinking about debt, but your actions follow the debt anyway. This is manipulation, yes, but it's also just human nature. We're wired to balance scales, even when we don't realize someone tipped them. The darkest part? The most effective people in the world don't feel like they're manipulating when they do this. They've simply learned that these psychological levers exist, and they pull them gently. A politician who remembers your name from a conversation 3 years ago isn't being generous with their memory. They're being strategic, but they genuinely believe they're just being kind, and maybe they are. Maybe the line between kindness and strategy is thinner than we want to admit. Here's something Machiavelli knew that psychology has now proven. Most of your decisions are made before you're aware you're making them. A restaurant uses warm lighting, soft music, and the smell of bread baking. You don't think, they are psychologically manipulating my appetite. You think you simply chose to eat more. The lighting didn't make you hungry. You were already hungry. It just tilted the scale. And the scale tipped because humans respond to environmental cues like animals respond to signals. Machiavelli understood that people aren't making conscious, rational choices in most moments. They're responding to subtle cues in their environment. Power isn't about forcing someone to do something. It's about reshaping their perception so they want to do it. So they believe it was their idea all along. Think about how many times you've believed something was your choice when it was really the path of least resistance. You didn't choose to wear the clothes that look like everyone else's. Society made that choice for you. You didn't choose to want what your friends want. But watching them want it made you want it. The architect of influence never forces anything. They simply remove the friction from the path they want you to take. Here's the cost of understanding Machiavelli's game. Once you see how people operate, you start seeing the machinery underneath relationships. You notice when someone laughs a little too long at your joke. You recognize the strategic pause before someone shares something vulnerable. You understand that some confessions are just advanced trust-building techniques, and you start doing it too, not because you're evil, but because once you see the map, you start following it. Unconsciously, you become another player. The question isn't whether manipulation exists. It does. It's everywhere, in every human interaction. The real question is whether you do it consciously or unconsciously. Do you understand the game, or are you playing without knowing the rules? Most people are playing without knowing. They hurt others unintentionally because they never learned that every glance, every word choice, every silence is information. Information that rewires how others see reality. But I want to end this differently than Machiavelli might have. He wrote about power as if it existed outside us, as if we were all just playing a game against each other. But what if the darkest part of human psychology isn't that we manipulate others? What if it's that we don't even recognize when we're manipulating ourselves? Think about your own decisions, the compromises you've made, the versions of yourself you've performed so many times that you forgot which one was original, the dreams you've abandoned not because they were impossible, but because the comfort of the known path felt safer than the chaos of the real path. Machiavelli understood power, but maybe he missed something. Maybe the deepest game isn't being played between people. Maybe it's being played inside each of us. A battle between the person we could become and the person we've learned it's safer to be. We all wear masks. But what if the scariest moment comes when we take them off and don't recognize ourselves anymore? The game of survival isn't really about manipulating others. It's about this. At what point does adaptation become surrender? At what point does strategy become dishonesty? At what point does playing the game so well that we win actually mean we've lost? These are the questions Machiavelli never asked. Maybe because the answer was too dark even for him. The mask stays on. The game continues. But tonight, when you're alone, ask yourself, how much of what you did today was really your choice?